Hi, let me just coordinate this, the audio and the visual. Hello, I'm going to do the Haftorah now. Take a look at the Haftorah this week in Parshas Vayigash. This is being sponsored by someone who doesn't want the name mentioned. It's a he, not a she. Um, but I do want to, I know it won't mind if I forgot to mention yesterday, we hope this will also be a schutz for Refuah Shlema for Eitan's mom, for Moshe's mom. I think it's Dvorah Basar Sima. I think that is Dvorah Basar Sima. And I remember from Mayor Katz always mentioning it. And um, I hope all good things will come true. Even a small improvement in health helps. The Haftarah today is the famous Ezekiel 37, the second half. And again, I always say I know that we didn't create the numbers, but they're useful. The thing is, this is a famous Haftarah where the two sticks come together and form one. I'm sure you've heard that before some way or another. Okay. The funny thing is that our Haftarah, as is often the case, as I mentioned, is kind of fractionated in the sense that it's the second half of a prophecy, or it seems to be. In chapter 37, which doesn't necessarily have to be a chapter, that's the way the Christians set it up, but it is juxtaposed. It's preceded by the dry bones, which is a different Haftarah, but by the dry bones. So notice you're talking about the prophet Yechezkel, you're talking about the base of has been destroyed by Thrisha, of course. They're in Babel, and he has all these weird visions, and one of them is of the dead bones, and they come to life. And God says, "Can the dead bones come to life?" And they do. Uh, Getting aside from what I've talked about in the past, whether this is a mushal or really happened, leave that aside. It clearly has a grand meaning in the mushal sense. That has nothing to do with the question whether it literally happened. It seems from the Gemara did, but as a prophetic vision, it's of course talking about the rebirth of the Jewish people. There'll be some motivations. For example, in the time of Yechezkel, the Jewish people had been busted. They were in Bavel, the survivors, after the catastrophe of the Churban by Rishon, by Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians, of course. And here the people are all in a blue funk. They're all tremendously depressed naturally. And many of them are saying, as some Jews said after 1945, that it's all over. The Jewish experiment is an episode, and it's come and gone. There were many who said that after 1945, which I can understand. I'm talking about people survived. But nevertheless, in spite of that, the meaning of that prophecy is that it's not an episode. The Jewish people chug on. And the dry bones, even though they are dead, but they can come to life again. And that's the miracle of happens to Klal Yisrael from time to time. But then it's followed up by our Haftorah this week. And that is the two sticks have to come together, meaning you need the Achdus. All right? You need the Achdus. So the prophecy of national revival is accompanied. It seems like a Tanai in it, that there has to be an Achdus, that the stick of Judah and the stick of Joseph will come together, be one in the hands. What's the lashon over here? Ata ben Adam kachol eitzeh chol k'sov Yehuda lebnei Yisrael chaveru kach eitzeh chol k'sov Yosef eitz Ephraim chol beis chaveru. Take two sticks, one for the National League and one for the American League. One for Yehuda and his side, and for Joseph and his side. And you bring them together, and tie them together. And that's supposed to be symbolic. A lot of the things that prophets do, especially Yechezkel, especially Ezekiel, are meant to provoke questioning, and then you give the meaning of the prophecy, the strange action. And Daber Alehem, God says, tell him, Kom Hashem, Hine ani lokech as eitz Yosef, asher b'yad Ephraim, asher b'yad Yisrael, v'nasati yosam as eitz Yehuda, v'asisem eitz echa v'yulech b'yodi. Okay? I'm going to unite the Jewish people. So in the time Yechezkel, the Churban Bayis Rishon, meaning the destruction of the south, the king of Judah, took place. Somebody asked me this the other day, 20 or 30 or something like that, after the disappearance of the 10 tribes of the north. And so when Judah went down to Nebuchadnezzar, it was only Yehuda and Binyamin, basically, maybe a little bit more. The other 10 tribes were already lost to Jewish history. But one day they'll come back, according to this. And there'll be Achdus. And then there'll be utopia. Okay? notice, once you have that, then it will gather the Jews from their exile, places of exile. And I'll gather them all around, and I'll bring them to Israel. And there'll be a united people. That's unfortunately the biggest miracle. To tell me that God can bring back a Mashiach, that's Pashat. To bring Achdus among the Jews, that's a tough one. They'll all agree on one king. It won't be two kingdoms. Okay? And etc., etc., etc. So here's the thing. The way he just described it, what's he talking about exactly? So, if I wanted to be superficial and rabbinic, he's like this: oh, my friends, in order to have real gula, we need achdus among Klal Yisrael. The Jewish people have to stop, knifing each other in the back and pulling each other apart like we do in Israel today, as we all know. I mean, all that is no question that that's true, but it's not so pashut in terms of this Haftarah. This is prophecy, because the way he's describing it, as far as you read the Haftarah, there's like an order to events. There's the Jews in exile, and then there's a ruach of achdus that is divinely promoted. You take a stick of one team and a stick of another team, you tie the two sticks together, and once the two sticks are together, you have achdus, then comes the geula. Okay? See the two sticks in front of the eyes of the Jewish people, and say, now that you have achdus, I will bring you in from the nations in which you've been scattered. So it sounds like you can't get to step 3 till you get to step 2. So there has to be 8 this and 8 that, the two sticks. You have to tie them together and make him an 8 echad. Sounds like, let's put it this way, Yecheskel is only a mortal, so he can tie them together with a string or something. God is saying he will literally take 2 branches and form out of one branch. As can be done in horticulture, whatever. I'm not a farmer or anything like that, but you can graft things on together so that the common fruit grows out of both, things like that. So these are all metaphors for unity. Okay? Now, mind you, it's not a unity where everybody's even Steven. It's a unity where, very conservative, it's a unity where all the other tribes will accept the supremacy of Judah. You know that? Which is even a bigger chiddush. So in other words, he goes on to say, Avdi David Melech Aleim B'ro Echad Yelekulam. My servant David, in other words, the dynasty of David and Melech will be the king over all of them, and they'll have a single shepherd, not a bunch of shepherds. And then they'll keep the Torah and do all the good things. Okay? That'll be all the good things. So you really have quite a process. Let me put it this way. Suppose the Mashiach came tomorrow, which could be. Jewish people won't be ready for it. I'm being serious now, I'm not being funny. Suppose tomorrow morning the Mashiach showed up in some way and said, here we are, let's all go to Israel. Everybody will be fighting each other. Who's in charge? Which Rosh Hashiva do? Orthodox and Conservative Reform, this, that, and the other, the gay and the straight. Who knows? Who knows? And nobody would be given to the other. Is Satmar giving into Chabad? Is Chabad giving into Satmar? Is the Yeshiva giving into you know what I mean? Okay? And you have a funny situation. Now, in a simplistic fashion, I suppose you say like this. The Mashiach will be so evidently sovereign and grand and sweeping that he will say, I am from David and I'm the ruler of everybody, and everybody will be Makabel it. Okay? Okay, could be. From our prophecy today in Haftarah, it sounds like it won't be as simple as that. It'll have to be preceded by some process of Achdus. How will that process of Achdus happen? I don't know, obviously. But it'll have to it'll mean a certain political as well as a psychological transformation will have to happen where everybody agrees to be on the same team. And being on the same team means we all agree to follow the same captain, right? Because otherwise, you say like this: um, there'll be two sticks, and they'll come together, and then they'll switch off. One melech will be from David. Next time, the melech will be from Ephraim. Next time, melech will be from David. Next time, melech will be from Ephraim. And they say, "Oh, see, they worked it out." Remember it happened in the Gemara. Shabbos Shalmi. What am I talking about? When they fired Rabbi Gamliel, they put in Blazer and Azariah. Yeah, and then they eventually they switched off week after week, 2 weeks a week. They did a rotation. There's no rotation mentioned on Haftorah. There's going to be a winner and a loser, and the winner is going to be David, and it'll be Utopia though. So what he's trying to say is like this: stop the mishigas of the sinas china, meaning purposeless hatred. If I told you that there'll be one king, but this king will work out for everybody, so everybody under his reign will become a multimillionaire, are you going to say, I don't want it? Now that did happen with Joseph and the brothers, although they didn't understand it. He said, all the sun and the moon and the stars will bow down to me. But it'll be good for you. They didn't see it that way, right? And they didn't believe it would be good. Suppose they would have told him it would be good. I don't know what the tribes would have done in that case. Suppose he would have said, you'll all bow down to Joseph, but Joseph will support you for the rest of your life, like I mentioned yesterday. Who knows what they would, I don't know. If it's the Middle East, they'll say, I'd rather be poor and run myself than be rich under you. But in the Haftorah today, it says that somehow there'll be a spirit of Achdus, it'll come together, and then after that, the Rebbeinu Shalom will bring in. It's divine. God will pull out the Jews from all the Goyim that they're located within, and I will gather them and bring them into Israel, where there will be a utopian existence. It's just interesting, How exactly is that supposed to play out? Okay? This, it seems to me, would be, I'm very serious now, I'm not being funny. Seems to me like a Satmar type word. What do I mean? What does the Satmar claim, as far as I can understand it? You're going out of order. The state of Israel came to revive. That's the Atzamas Ayavashis. Okay? To make a state of Israel, Mamashal Atzamas Ayavashis. If you want to be rhetorical, poetical, the state of Israel came to being right after the Shoah, right after the Holocaust. So Mamash was Atzamas Ayavashis. And you say, Hatzamas Azuchai, can these bones live? Well, it did. But they didn't go the order that we just said over here. They didn't say, we'll organize some kind of an achdus of the different Yehuda ben Yemen. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the fact that they agreed in Israel to have like a republic with a Knesset, and everybody agrees to follow the Knesset, more or less, maybe that's the achdus that we're talking about. It seems more now, Torah, that people just take it on their own. He doesn't tell us the magic question, how will you get these two sticks to be together? It's easy to tie two sticks together. How do you tie two Jews together? Two groups of Jews together. And that they're really bonded, they want to stay bonded and not pull away from each other. That's very hard. I can't say, let me put it this way. Now Israel's been around for 75 years. A basic achdus they have, but it's pulling apart as we speak. You follow the news like I do. It's pulling apart. It's not good. Okay? Now, the Frum would say, Avdi David Malach Aleim. You should have a Frum king. That is to say, the government, everything should be run according to the Torah. Hasn't worked out that way. So for your Satmar, you say this is going out of order. You didn't get the two sticks together. And it's not God who took them out of the Goyim. It's man, the Zionists, let's say, for example. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones that they took for the Goyim. There's truth to that. Question is this to be understood as a linear prophecy? The Pashut Taka seems that way. But you and I know, when it comes to Nevuahs, I'm serious now, there's always this oracular quality to Nevuah, in which it doesn't exactly seem this way, but when it's all over, I'll understand how it worked out. Like, for example, when they said the Jews will be 400 years in the land of Egypt. There's no way you could figure out that Rube Goldberg system to be, from the time of Yitzchak, and then the Yaakov go down, and then 86 years of it. I mean, when it's all over, looking backwards, you can tell, but there was no way to tell at that time. The Rambam makes this point, by the way, in the Geras Tamim, where he deprecates the messiahs, the false messiahs, the would-be messiahs, who come and say that I'm the Mashiach, or those who are Mechashve Kitzin, who say we calculate the Mashiach is coming in 1550, 1840, 1730, whatever you want to say, because they don't know. Okay, and the Rambam says nobody could figure out, the Arba Mea Shana by the Brit Bein HaBesarim. So how are you going to figure out these other things? Nevertheless, we have a very interesting image here, right? We have an image which says that the real final Geula, not a temporary thing and not a second-class thing and all that, the real Geula will have to be preceded by an Achdus. Okay? That's easier said than done. It's rather easy in the world to say we're all in favor of, of Jewish unity. But usually the question then becomes like this: what are you willing to sacrifice or give up in the quest for Jewish unity? Usually you say, I don't mean that. I mean, everybody will follow me. Right? We won't fight anymore. You all feel I'm right. I mean, seriously. Isn't that what every group says? The Orthodox say copy the non-Orthodox. Satmar says it. For Chabad definitely says it. The Aguda says it. The Sephardim, I'm sure, think it. That's how it goes. We'll have a perfect world. Everybody will be like me. And it doesn't. And let me say, it says that to be David and Melch will be the king. So in other words, it won't be equality to be a winner and a loser, but everybody will be okay with it. That's what it seems, right? That's what it seems. And if they can attain that, Karate Lam Bris Shalom, Bris Shalom Yeo, some they'll have a Brit Shalom, and everything will be great. Hoya Mishkani Alehem, Yisrael Elohim, the what do you call it? My Mishkan will be among your nose. Then you'll have a Beis Hamikdash. So that's a Pashup Shah Mishkan Elohim. So the restoration of a temple, which seems to be like the cherry on the top of the cake, that they'll come back to Israel and retake the land, hold it, prosper in it, and then they'll have Beis Hamikdash. All has to be preceded by this Achdus business. Now, the reason for that seems to me is Pashup. Even if the Mashiach came tomorrow, if there were quarrels among the Jews, they'll pull it apart again. Unless the Mashiach is mamish, like such a superhuman figure that, and there are such traditions, they just look at you and you disappear, you know what I mean? No salim gal, how do you say gal shalish? Put an eye on them into a gal shal avanim or something, a gal shal offer. Have magical powers. And we do have many traditions about the Mashiach, which are not identical, according to some of which he'll have magical powers. According to others, not. I think the Rambam is famous for saying the Mashiach will not have magical powers. So if you say he'll have magical powers, you can push Achdus that way. Maybe I'm wrong. Moshe Rabbeinu had magical powers. I'll say it again. Moshe Rabbeinu had supernatural powers. Through his connection with Hashem. It didn't mean that people all followed him or wanted to. It didn't mean that people weren't borching all the time and complaining. Complaining is just a matter of what your angle of vision is. The tongue can always find something wrong with the situation. So even if it be Eretz Yisrael, and even if all the tribes will come back, it seems to be implied over here, which is interesting because the time of Yechezkel they weren't there. And even if everything's peachy keen, Yosef will say, why should David be Melech Aleim? Why can't we? Or something like that. Something along those lines. So the Haftarah raises the interesting question, the uncomfortable question. In Mashiach time, when the Jews are restored to Eretz Yisrael, and maybe even when they rebuild the Beis Hamikdash, and everything's going great, Avdi David Melech Aleim, Roa Echad Yil Kulam, Uva Mishpata Yelechu, Bechukas Hayishmu V'Asuasan, will it last? Will it be able to weather the strife, the almost inevitable strife that accompanies any kind of what shall I say, historical event or metaphysical event even? Unless Rabbanu Shalom changes people's minds, turning them into a certain zombie, will Yosef agree to be the junior stick in the situation. The way it's written in the parsha, it sounds like they're two equal sticks. But when you actually look down on it, if it's going to be David as the king, so it sounds like they're two equal sticks, but one is more equal than the other. Will people be okay with that? Okay. Will people say, since the king is delivering, and we're having, a utopia, especially even references the Ruchnistic and stuff. He says, the Bino Kanti, Mishkani Besocha, Yisrael Elohim, right? David Nasi Aleim. To be even good Ruchnias, but will it last? So I'm raising the uncomfortable question from this Haftarah. If the Mashiach came tomorrow, and we all went back to Israel, and the Arabs agreed to leave, and so forth and so on, would it last? And you say, well, we're promised it lasts. We don't know what the promises are exactly. We have an idea of a Mashiach. And maybe there's a Mashiach after Mashiach. I don't know. When I say I don't know, that's a statement of fact. I certainly hope there'll be end of the Golas, and we all live happily ever after. Why not? And everybody will be well and, and rich and powerful. And like the Rambam says, you can devote yourself to Avodas Hashem and so forth and so forth. Be peace in the Middle East, as he says. The line will lie down with the land means there'll be peace in the Middle East. Okay. But will it last as long as the Yitzhar is still there? We're told the end of time, not necessarily when Mashiach shows up, at some later date. Ayin Ramban, and what's it called? The last parak of that book. You know what I mean? From his book on death. Shar HaGamul. You'll see it's a whole, back and forth. First comes Mashiach, then comes this, then comes this. The later stuff is down the road. The resurrection and the end of death and the destruction of the Yitzhar itself, of the Satan. In other words, when all bets are off and things will be in a completely different mode. But if you're talking about the period he's talking about over here, talking about a physical Israel and a physical temple and physical people being over there, will it be able to weather, I should say, strife? Will there be strife among Jews in the time of Mashiach? Or will everybody live happily ever after, each tachas gafno, as they say, and everything will be, like a fairy tale? I hope, we daven, we pray to be like a fairy tale. That everything be great. But it's not so pasha. At least it doesn't seem that way. So you have a very intriguing Haftarah if you give some real thought to it and don't just rest with general cliches. And that's the point I wanted to make. Again, I want to thank our anonymous sponsor. If I said where this person lives, you'd know who he was. So I'll leave that off. I honor his request. Thank you very much. And again, we want for Itan's mom, for Shlema, to Sarah Cyril Sima. And with that, I wish everybody a good Shabbos.